Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among other things. Now what we're doing today is looking at SLP. It's just a technical analysis. There's no fundamentals here. If you have insight on that, please feel free to comment below and let us know. But more importantly, we're just looking at the technical charts to help you find a good entry point, but also learn something along the way here, right? Because we're all in this together. I am essentially not a financial advisor, but I have years of trading experience. I want to help bring that to the table. But just know this is for educational purposes only. You always need to do your own research. Okay. Now moving forward, if you have an interest in $25 in Bitcoin, even though it's a nice and low price, might be the best time to capitalize on that. That is a link in the description below from Voyager. Also, there's a link for my Patreon account. Please show your support if you find benefit. More importantly though, join our Telegram community, get engaged in the community, and learn as much as you can. Because again, we are all here to learn and grow together. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at SLP. Now, before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum to get a baseline on the market, just to generally see what's going on. That way we understand, how things are getting impacted or affected by Bitcoin either selling off or increasing. Okay, so let's take a look at that here, but first things first, we'll take a look at Bitcoin. Now, this is a 4-hour chart on Binance. In other words, this is a Binance desktop application. And I use TradingView chart, and if you need to know how to find that, it's in the top right hand corner. You just click TradingView and you'll find a chart just like this. Okay. Now, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, again, this is a 4-hour chart. We're just going to strictly take a quick look here at the moving averages as well as support and resistance levels. Now, when I covered this yesterday, previous support was really close to about 46,700. Now, potential support is about 43,000 even. So we might want to mark that as well. We just keep going down and down and down. So I'm sure, like most everyone else, we're all a little frustrated by Bitcoin's progress or lack thereof, because it's been definitely hitting our pocketbooks if you have any long positions on altcoins for the most part, right? SLP is actually a different story, but we'll see here in a minute. But suffice to say, we're looking at about 43,000 for the current support. New resistance line is about 46,800. And then, of course, we've got tons of resistance lines above that as well. 43,500, 47,000, or correction, it was 53,400. It's been low for so long I can't even remember. And 57,000 plus, right around 59,500. Okay. Obviously, all the moving averages are well above right now. So what we might see is the the 50-day moving average get tested in the near future. Hard to say what'll happen. Hopefully we see a period of consolidation here and a ramp back up from Bitcoin, but you never truly know. Well, that's currently what's going on with Bitcoin. Ethereum, similar scenario here. In fact, Ethereum is following Bitcoin quite closely. You can see exact same patterns here, which is interesting because traditionally Ethereum will move independently of Bitcoin. It'll be impacted by it initially, and then most everyone, the market capitalization comes right to Ethereum because it's the largest altcoin, second largest coin out there. And what I'm seeing happening now is that people are migrating over to different coins, primarily ADA, getting tons and tons of market capitalization right now because perhaps Ethereum's too overpriced, maybe just Ethereum's losing momentum, but they don't call it ADA killer for no reason, right? So suffice to say here, Ethereum is performing almost equally on the same playing field as Bitcoin when it normally doesn't. So I guess that's a little concerning for Ethereum. Not to say it won't do well, but I feel like moving forward here and now, it's likely that Ethereum will behave similarly to Bitcoin. Just something to note, right? And just quickly look at the excuse me, the moving averages. We lost 50 and lost 100. 200-day moving average may work as a support level. That's usually the strongest support level in most cases, at least when it comes to traditional computer trading and all the bots and everything. Essentially, major traders use it. It's a highly renowned, the 200-day moving average on the 4-hour chart. Yeah. So keep that in mind. That's just kind of what's going on there. Now let's take a look at SLP. And as we can see, SLP is kind of performing on the inverse here, which is nice. And what we'll do first is we'll take a look at the 1-day chart and then work our way down. Now bear in mind, SLP here, and I didn't do my research, I apologize. It's either a recent ICO or just introduced to Binance on the 29th. So there's only about two and a half weeks of trading data here. So as you can see on the one-day chart, not a lot to disseminate besides the fact that it increased, which is typical when it's first introduced and or an ICO, and then it came back down. Its most recent low is 13.3 cents, and today it hit a high of 34.5 cents. So all in all, a lot of movement. If you look at the growth here today so far, it's up 79%, or it was at one point, and it obviously is retracing somewhat now. So we'll look at that here in a moment. But that's essentially the one-day chart there, and again, not much to really note here. RSI finally caught up. In other words, 14 days later, we're looking at RSI increasing of right around 57. There is no MACD in this case. It wouldn't matter honestly if there was, anyways, because I don't put a lot of value on the the MACD and the one-day chart. I think it's most beneficial on the 4-hour chart. It really just helps us understand the momentum and to see if there's a shift in momentum, which is probably what we're seeing right now. So if we see this most recent 4-hour bar, we do see a sell-off. Retracement makes sense with that 79% increase in the last 24 hours. It's no wonder why the price is coming back down. Anytime the price comes up that fast and that hard, you can expect to come down, and almost in all cases come about 50% of the way down. And it's going to try to discover its average true range now over the next few days, and or few hours rather. It may even find it a lot sooner, but a lot of times you get these periods of consolidation and a ramp up, you can see a state of indecision and essentially a sell-off. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. But looking at the 4-hour chart, RSI is up over 70. That's kind of normal. That's kind of standard for scenarios like this. So not a lot to really note here. Let's take a quick peek at the moving averages. Again, limited data, hard to identify. So just generally speaking with what we have here so far, the 50-day moving average is working as a support level. So we'll see how that kind of comes up and creeps up with the price. And hopefully it'll continue to work as a support. But something to also note too, and let's take a look at the time frames for Bitcoin really quick. So we got the massive sell-off here, or secondary sell-off on the 16th, and the first was on the 12th. So let's see how that was impacted. So on the 12th, this was the first Bitcoin sell-off right here. Came back up, recovered. So obviously the price, the average true range needs to be in this channel. And then the second sell-off from Bitcoin was on the 15th. That's in this range here. It wasn't even impacted at all. So it essentially acted as if Bitcoin did nothing and just continued on its merry way. And then of course ramped up here after a short period of consolidation from Bitcoin last 12 to 24 hours. So generally speaking, SLP is doing very well. It's moving independent of Bitcoin, but it's also probably performing that way because the price should not have been this low in the first place. It was probably going to recover right here when Bitcoin first sold off, and the price should generally be probably in the range of about 25 to 35 cents. So I'm going to speculate that the channel here that we're going to see will work its way into this little corridor here, and eventually either break up or break down. Likely break up based on the moving average coming back up to intersect. So we'll see what happens there, but that is what I'm speculating there on the 4-hour chart. Now let's look at the 15-minute chart to see if we can identify a good entry point for you. And just to note as well, as this is per usual, I try to always teach this in my videos. If you are watching the RSI, I recommend you do if you don't, but if you're looking at the RSI here in this scenario, you'll see that it's been in a comfortable range. Anything over the halfway point of 50 is essentially considered more bullish, and obviously it's been bullish the last 24 hours. But if you can see here, of course, when the price comes up over 70, there was a retracement that happened afterwards, right? So that increase in price was so significant that the price had to come down because it was too intense. And another reason why too is because the average volume over the last 24 hours, which this VWAP line is considered a volume weighted average price, that's this blue line here. It basically tells us the 24-hour volume based on it's the average price based on the last 24-hour volume. All right, so it takes the average of the 24-hour volume, expresses it as a price, and it should be roughly 26.6 cents. But at this point here, when it was extremely overextended according to the RSI, you take this difference and you look at that, that was a 30% variance. So that window there, that channel, was so severe, so above the average price, that it had to come back down. So retrace itself back down. So again, something to note, that's why the VWAP is extremely helpful to identify that, and you use that in conjunction with the RSI to understand specifically good entry points or good exit points. And anything over, just say 55 on the RSI does tell you that it's still considered to be bullish. Okay, so we're still considered bullish at this point because it's right around 53, 55 in this range, and it would probably be safe to say that the price may not come back down much further. I like the fact that the price is above VWAP line, and we're looking pretty good there. Also, volume has increased overall in the last 24 hours. That's a good sign. Hopefully that continues. Okay. Now let's look at the 1 minute chart as well to get more of a better perspective on price action. Because I always like to look at the EMA line on the 1 minute chart just to quickly understand what's going on. And if you're not familiar with the EMA line, it's kind of just it's a momentum indicator. It really helps us understand an exponential moving average. So instead of taking just a 50-day average and expressing it as a price, this has more of a calculated, it's more of a very specific formula, of course, it goes into it, but it responds quickly to the price action. And I use the EMA 15, but a lot of industry standards will be more so along the lines of EMA 9 or EMA 20. 15 works best for me, and the reason why is because it kind of splits the difference. I don't have to have two indicators, I just have one, and it's kind of nice. But the point of the EMA is to ensure that you find a good entry point. Now, it's kind of hard in this climate right here when the price keeps bouncing up and down. Again, volatile climates, EMA can be difficult to gauge because it's moving too quickly with the price action. Sometimes the moving average would be better. However, in this circumstance here, just taking a look, when the EMA line is below, it's essentially considered a bullish trend. Inverse applies, EMA is above, it's a bearish trend, right? So we saw that there was a bearish trend here, it ramped up, it's trying to come up above the EMA line, is now testing the EMA line. So a good time to kind of try to consider taking entry is to try to find like 2 or 3 solid green bars that close above that time frame to ensure that you can catch that momentum and it's actually indicating it's a bullish trend. So that's essentially what I try to do here. It's hard, honestly, it's kind of hard to identify. I can give you an example of what that might look like. So if you see these 3 bars here, and let me get a little closer. You see these 3 bars here? These are 3 1-minute bars essentially that are closing above the EMA line, right? And an entry point there would be possibly right around there. Again, it's easier to identify now because of course the price went up, and there's no perfect science. This never works 100% of the time. But if you have good risk management and you understand that you only ever want to lose 1% for every 2% that you're planning to gain, then you always come out on top, even if you're a 50% trader, right? So generally speaking, try to think of something like that. And again, price being over VWAP, this is great. It's basically a moving support line. And try to look for entry points like this that have confirmation. In other words, it comes up, like here, right here, for example, it came up above EMA and lost it. That was not confirmation because it didn't test the EMA line twice. This is essentially the second confirmation because of the fact that it came up, it lost, came up again, and held, right? So oftentimes that is a much better scenario than taking entry right here and essentially trying to buy the dip. I almost always wait for the price to bounce before taking entry, okay? So just something to note here. So I guess best case scenario here, or good case scenario in the big picture is to just wait for a good entry point, wait for confirmation. If you're using the 1 minute chart for just say a day trade, for example, then wait for just say 3 solid 1 minute green bars. Okay, now if you're looking at the 15-minute chart, which I'd prefer to recommend based on the fact that I would feel that most of us are considered to be swing traders, right? I prefer swing trading where I hold maybe just say for 24 to 48 hours and or just say maybe a little bit of a longer swing trade. When I take entry there, I wait for confirmation above the EMA line and the VWAP, and that would be 2 solid 15-minute green bars. Okay, so if you're going to swing trade, use the 15-minute chart, don't worry about the 1 minute, and look for 2 solid green bars. So let's go ahead and quickly identify that. You can see a lot of them here, of course, because it's more on a bullish trend. But generally speaking, this is how it works, right? So if I'm right here looking to take entry, I don't see anything that I like here so far. Because again, that ramped up too fast, too quick, I didn't like it. So I'd pay attention to this consolidation phase here. And what you do is you wait for 2 solid green bars, right? So if the 15-minute chart closes, let's say that, for example, this guy right here, that would not be confirmation because of the fact that it's under the EMA and the VWAP line. This would be a good first indication of a potential buy signal because it's closing above the EMA line and the VWAP line. Okay, and if you combine both of these together, that gives you two solid green bars, in other words, that are closing above. And then what that does, it gives us confirmation that you have 30 minutes worth of bullish activity above both support levels. That's a positive sign. That's a positive indication to buy. So I'd likely take entry somewhere in this range here, maybe there, maybe there. Yeah, and I'd wait and see how it tests the VWAP and support line moving forward. If it tests and rejects, which it's doing right now, comes up and jumps off of the EMA line, I would consider adding to my position here. Or just say here if I got in a little bit late, but that's still okay. And obviously you see it continues to come up, and as it comes down and tests the EMA line, you start adding to your positions. So I would normally start with like a 20-30% position here, and then I would come up and it would come down. I might add 30 to 40%. Get further confirmation, basically telling us it's on a bull run, I would add to my position here too. But bear in mind, I would only do this if the RSI is under 70. Okay? What you see here, RSI is staying under 70. As soon as it goes up over 70 here, in this case right here, right around here, then I'd consider exiting my position right in this range. Okay, now again, I'd miss out on this little part here, of course, but I'd also miss out on this part here as well. Okay, so there's no point in holding on too long and being greedy, right? You want to take your confirmation, use it, add to your position as you get closer. Once you get an indication of a sell signal, you sell and you get out. Okay, and that sell signal to me is the RSI over 70. It can be over 70 and under 80 and still be okay, but once it hits 80, like right here, that is an extremely strong sign to get out. Okay, so you can kind of ride the lightning at 70. That's kind of okay, but also not. But if you see the distance, the variance between the VWAP and the top of the price action is very significant, in other words, much higher than the average, then you can expect for the price to retrace and come back down. Okay, so that'd be my approach here in this scenario. Again, identifying that moving forward here can be a little more challenging depending on the price action and the movement. I would not recommend taking entry at this exact time until the price maybe comes down, tests the VWAP line, and or hits a support and resistance level. And speaking of support and resistance levels, let's see if we can identify any. Just as a last thought here. So you got this level at approximately 24 cents, I would say, is a pretty good support. It was tested 1, 2, almost 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So that's going to work as a very strong support level. So if we lose VWAP and the price comes down, and it comes all the way down to 24 cents, you can expect the price to bounce off of that and come back up. Because again, the average true range is probably anywhere between 25 to 35 cents right now. Because if you see how contradictory it's working to Bitcoin, and it's moving up instead of down, that tells me that the price is way too low for what it should be. Okay? And it also tells me too that we're likely still in a bull run, but any bull run has to have a consolidation phase in order to continue to be a bull run. Okay? So just pay attention to that. These are all good things. These are all good indicators. And hopefully continue to always do your research. Be smart about your entry. Use good risk tolerance. I'll have future training videos regarding all these things. I'm working on a good training platform, essentially, to be able to provide this. But in the meantime, I'll try to release, just definitions of how these indicators that I like to use on a daily basis work, so you can function a little bit more effectively yourself and understand it wholeheartedly. But either way, if you did find benefit from this, please like and comment below. Really appreciate your support. You're all very awesome. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.